Good afternoon. It is Monday, March 16th, doing the third in my diet update series, talking about lean mass hyperresponders, which I believe I am one. A lean mass hyperresponder has a high bad cholesterol score, but they seem to be healthy. So if I feel good, I am good. That's why I take what an expert, a doctor, saying to me that I'm unhealthy, I take that with a grain of salt. They're the scholar, they're the professional. I am arguably an expert about my own body, but they have the vast knowledge and training that should, at the very least, make me second guess how I feel. So I've dived in, I've learned, and I'm ready to take a stand for the time being and push back and request more information and clarification, request second opinions, and go deeper into the science of my health. So, cholesterol tests measure LDL-C. Well, the C is cholesterol, so LDL-C. Typically, it's a lipid panel, and HDL-C and triglycerides. They're, at least at my doctor's office, they also do a LDL direct, which in my case has been a higher number. So I think it's two ways to measure the same thing: LDL direct and the lipid LDL measured within the lipid panel. Now, I believe LDL stands for low density lipoprotein, and it is a vehicle for the cholesterol. So if you just say LDL, and call it cholesterol, it's a misnomer. It's a vehicle for cholesterol. So you got to add that little C if you want to be correct. And it's not, calling it bad is not fair as well. In my case, I have a higher HDL. H is high density lipoprotein, so the H is for high. I have a higher HDL than triglyceride. I won't dive into what exactly triglyceride means. It has to do with sugar. I don't want to sound, I am ignorant. It gets complicated when I think of glucose, insulin, triglycerides. Um, so I'll just say it has to do with sugar. So it's a measure of the sugar in your blood to some degree. But typically, lower is better. In particular, when you have a high LDL score, you want to have a lower triglyceride score, because in my super simplistic understanding, sugar weaponizes fat. So the triglycerides representing sugar and the LDL representing fat. If the sugar is low, then the fat's not weaponized. And then HDL is high, and that kind of cleans up the mess that LDL can become. So if HDL is high, it's protecting your body from the dangers of LDL. And if triglycerides are low, then that danger is lessened. So HDL is protecting, and triglycerides, a lower triglyceride means there's less risk, or the HDL is more capable. Triglycerides are vital. Like all these pieces are vital. It's argue that there's nothing bad per se. It's about the patterns, healthy patterns and unhealthy patterns. So what is the technical cutoff for a lean mass hyperresponder? Hyperresponder is somebody who their LDL-C will skyrocket with, let's say, a low carbohydrate diet. going into ketosis or a carnivore diet spikes up. A lean mass hyperresponder is somebody who has a leaner mass. I think borderline. I don't see myself as an athlete, and I don't have a super strict diet. I have a moderately strict diet. But my numbers are, according to the lean mass hyperresponder cutoff, are pretty good. So the cutoff is 200 LDL-C or higher, HDL 80 or higher, and triglycerides 70 or lower. This is key, having a higher HDL than triglyceride. My most recent tests were 302 LDL, and the direct was even higher. Measure, the LDL direct was even higher, but my LDL-C within the lipid panel was 302. Dun, dun, dun. But my HDL-C was high as well, 87. So that protection, that's high, but this is high too. The low density lipoprotein vehicle for cholesterol, and then the high density cleanup crew. And then my triglycerides were super low, all the way down at 48. Now, I fasted, I think, around for 14 hours before taking my lipid panel, and doctors may not recommend, but if you think you might be if you have a low-carb diet, I recommend, based on my experience and knowledge that I've gleaned, having a 12 to 14 hour fast. I wouldn't go over that. I think I heard if you get up to 16 hours, that may mess with the results. But fast 12 to 14 hours before taking your lipid panel so that you can get a good ratio of HDL over triglyceride, or triglyceride over HDL. Just make sure that your triglycerides aren't spiked by having a recent meal. So if you've just eaten, your triglycerides should be high. In combination with a lower carb diet, I also do intermittent fasting. So fasting for 12 to 14 hours is just a normal thing for me. So not a big deal. When talking about health, there's it seems a common accepted view for lipoprotein, pattern A, pattern B. So pattern A is the healthy version, and pattern B is the unhealthy version. The pattern B will have the dangerous, the damaged, the weaponized LDL that may have served a function, or may serve a good function in some cases, but is truly the bad cholesterol, the oxidized, sticky LDL that will get into your arterial walls and the plaque, and will squeeze and will cause heart disease, heart attack. So that pattern B, you will have a lower HDL, per my understanding, you have a lower HDL, and you'll have a higher triglyceride. So your triglycerides will be higher than your HDL, and your HDL will be relatively low. And when so there's different, also, let me take a step back. There's different sizes of lipoprotein. There's the very low mass lipoprotein, and that, I think, accounts for why, if you're a low carb person, you will have a big number on your LDL-C test, because I believe that's measured by volume. And if you have a very low density LDL, it's fluffy, it's bigger, it takes up more space. And then there's intermediate lipoprotein, and then there's the low density. So they're all low density, but one that's very low, medium, and then the regular. Now, for pattern B, and And there's a Dr. Paul Manson has a great video describing this with pictures. Pattern B will have the low density, the LDL, in different sizes. There'll be like the healthy one, and then it'll be oxidized, denser, smaller versions. And the smallest one is the dangerous one. That's the one that will be sticky. It will get into the walls and cause plaque. Not the best description, but I'm comfortable with my understanding, and I'm working on my explanation. I've been talking to my endocrinologist. Still work on saying that, and pushing to talk to a lipid specialist at one of the hospitals in the area to get a better understanding and to find some common ground. So if you are like me as a hyperresponder, as a lean mass hyperresponder, it's not that hard to figure out in my experience. I think once you get used to you keep coming across the same stuff. Okay, LDL, I know what LDL is now. Okay, diabetes, I need to be more comfortable with triglycerides, insulin, but now I'm starting to understand, okay, insulin resistance. Okay, that's a bad thing. Insulin sensitivity, that's a good thing. Insulin resistant means that I have a sweet tooth. So it's all fitting together and starting to make sense. We don't have to go to medical school, but I think just like with being a educated voter is a civic duty, I think with the availability of information, the quality information available online, it is reasonable to expect a greater amount of knowledge as we go and talk to our doctors and put the pressure on them to have answers that make sense. And try to keep, as I spoke in my first video, I think, about, or maybe the last one, state of mind. Having the right state of mind as you do this, not have it be like akin to a religious belief, but be very respectful and question and learn and be open. And that's my understanding now. Next video, I will dive into, will it be oxalates? I will do, where are you? Sorry, first video. Yeah, oxalates. The carnivore diet and oxalates. That is a fun one I'm still learning about. That's the most recent addition to my dietary knowledge, and perhaps correcting the mistake I made of embracing chocolates and nuts and seeds to an excessive extent. Have a great day, and maybe I'll talk to you tomorrow. We'll see.